Hello, everybody, and welcome to a special crossover edition of the Locked On Islanders and Locked On Penguins podcasts. I am Gil Martin. He is Hunter Hodes. Hunter, so glad to have you here today.
Yeah, it's great to be there, Gil. Obviously, it's great to have you on my show. Really weird that last night was the first time these two teams have played in 5 months. What a strange season it's been, but what a game it was. Very wild, chaotic. I think that's how all Penguin Islanders games have been lately in their own way. I think outside of the Penguins playing the Capitals, the Islanders games are usually the most weird and chaotic.
Yeah, it's a unique rivalry. There have been so many strange things that happened between these two teams. You can go all the way back to that 1975 playoff series where the Penguins had the 3-0 lead and the Islanders came back to win it in 7. And then so many different fights and playoff series and
Don't
just
bring up 93. That's all I ask. Don't bring up that series.
all fair, all fair. But here we are. Last night, yeah, I mean, this was a very weird game because if you would have told me that the Islanders would have given up 4 goals to the Penguins and almost allowed 50 shots and they would have won the game, I would have bet against that. Bet Online would have given me some pretty good odds.
Yeah, the Penguins, they didn't start out the game well. They were really just turning the puck over a lot in the defensive zone. They went up 1-0, but even before that, wasn't really liking just how they were playing in the defensive zone. And then, they give up the 3 goals. I'm not really going to blame Casey DeSmith. I felt like just some of the defensive zone coverage was it's been bad for the last couple of weeks. It reached, I think, a new height last night. But then I really liked how the Penguins played in the second and the third period skill. That was probably some of the best hockey I think I've seen them play in the last week to 10 days. At least in my opinion. This has been a team that's been really struggling. I don't know if it's just due to full regression. I think the stomach bug has been really going around the team. I think a lot of players have been playing sick. I think it's part of it. Not going to say it's the whole thing. I'm not going to make all these excuses. But, with how they played, even when 2 of their forwards were lost due to the non-COVID illness, it was impressive. They racked up almost 50 shots. They tied the game going into the third. They even rallied again after the Islanders went up 4-3. They got the point. They probably should have won the game in overtime. Usually when teams get 4-on-3s for 2 full minutes, I would say 90% of the time that team wins in that situation. The Penguins, though, had a really brutal power play. They were definitely, I think, missing Evgeny Malkin. But, yeah, just definitely a weird and fascinating game, just because with how the Penguins were humming in the offensive zone those final 2 periods, usually that's good enough, even if they have a period where they stink up the joint a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, the first period, the Islanders clearly were the better team for most of it. And then in the second period, it was like the team switched uniforms. The Penguins really took over the pace of the game. What, they have 19 shots on goal in the second period? I mean, it was just like the Islanders were standing still and the Penguins were moving. And the whole tone of the game changed. And, it was ironic. You talked about that power play in overtime. I think Casey Cizikas had a better scoring chance than any of the Penguins did on that power play. It was it was a strange 2 minutes of hockey.
Other than the Jake Gensel flat-out robbery from Ilya Sorokin from 5 feet out, I still have no idea how that was not game over right there. What a save. What a goalie he's turned out to be. Casey Cizikas had the best chance outside of that because the Penguins just way too much passing in that sequence. And, I say this on my podcast all the time, Gil. I am not a shoot it guy that says screams from the seats of the crowd. But, you had a 4-on-3 there. There's really not much the opposition can do except try to stand there and block shots. You got to put some pucks on net. You can't be just passing it back and forth. Chris Letang, I felt like, for as good as he's been this year, he was pretty dreadful on that power play. Also played the Cizikas chance wrong. If he's even, an average Chris Letang on that unit, maybe they do win that game. But, excuse me, it was just a really poorly executed power play, probably one of the worst 4-on-3 power plays I've ever seen. And it was definitely weird to see how much the Islanders also had control of the puck in that sequence, because usually a team is hemmed in their own zone for that long. At least for most of the 2 minutes, the Islanders had the puck for, I want to say, over half of it because the Penguins were just screwing up, royally with their passes, fanning on them. They weren't taking shots. Not a good power play there. They deserve to lose in the shootout if you can't score for a full 2 minutes on a 4-on-3 situation.
Yeah, I mean, it was very unusual, and the Islanders, because they don't have a lot of pure skilled goal scorers, they tend to struggle in overtime when it's 3-on-3. They tend to struggle in shootouts, and yet to emerge with a win there against a Penguins team that has a lot more skilled goal scorers on their roster than the Islanders do. I was pleasantly surprised that the Islanders were able to pull that off. One thing that bothered Islander fans, and I do want to get your take on it. The penalty early in the third period on Beauvillier. I don't know which broadcast you were watching, but the replay that I saw, it showed that the Penguins player kind of tripped over the puck and that Beauvillier's stick didn't really make contact with his skates. I just wanted to, see how you saw it from a Penguins point of view.
No, that was definitely a terrible call, but I'm sure you saw the makeup call on Brock 5 seconds later. That was a peak. That was a pathetic. I mean, I think Mike Sullivan said, "I'm effing embarrassed for you" to the ref when he came over. He just smiled and laughed at him. Maybe he'll get a fine for that. Who knows? I definitely understood why Islanders fans were booing in that situation. The Penguins, they got a gift goal out of it. What can I say? That was a gift. Islanders got a gift right back. I knew there was going to be a makeup call.
We all did.
It would take 10 seconds to get that call. So really poor officiated sequence there. Honestly, there's a lot of calls that were in the first period too that they made. But then, in the third, even after those two calls were made in the third, obvious penalties were not called. And that's playoff officiating. I'm not surprised just because there's no consistency with the refs. I wish they could review those penalties. They get together, they talk about it, but then they keep the same penalty call. So, these people have no idea what they're doing. This is why I always laugh at when people say like, "Oh, there's like some grand conspiracy or something." I'm like, no, these guys just flat out stink.
Well, it's a difficult job to try to keep track of 12 players on the ice in real time from no replay, no slow motion, no. It is a difficult job. I have to give them credit for that fact at least. But yeah, there are times when you really wish they would do a better job of it.
Yeah, it feels like to me like it gets worse as each year goes, which shouldn't even be possible to me because these are the best of the best, and there's so many debates with officiating. I could probably spend an hour talking about that. But I do agree. It's a very hard sport to officiate. I just, in those kind of situations, go to a replay monitor, look at it. You want to reverse the call, get it right. I know replay at times is taken over a lot of sports, and sometimes it's too much. I think in that situation, you got to get it right because for as much as it benefited the Penguins, it got us at least a point. It's still that they should not have gotten a gift goal out of that.
Yeah, no, I mean, and to me, the important thing is consistency. If you let something go, let it go all game. If you call it all game. Yes. But each officiating team, they have to set a standard and they have to stick to that standard. And the players, you would think, okay, this guy is one of the referees tonight. I know how he calls a game. I have to react accordingly. It shouldn't be that complicated, should it? I mean,
like for me, just call the rule book. I think that's my clearest take on that. If it's a penalty, you call it. You don't just ignore blatant things that are right in front of you because the score, a team has more power plays than the other, or anything like that. I can't stand that part of it shitting. If something happens, you just call. I want there to be more consistency, and I do think the players would adjust to that situation. At least that's how I see it.
I agree. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Like you said, we could talk for hours about officiating. And again, I do respect the fact that they do have a difficult job. We have got a lot more to get to on this special crossover edition of Locked On Penguins and Locked On Islanders. We'll talk a little bit about the Penguins' playoff prospects and what the Islanders need to do to get back to the playoffs next year. Plus, we'll look ahead to tonight's game, or the Thursday night game between these two teams in Pittsburgh. But first, today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs and the start of the Major League Baseball season. And hey, Stanley Cup playoffs just around the corner as well. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. So, Hunter, I mean, they could have clinched last night had they won in regulation, but what the magic number, I assume, is 1 point now as far as
It's 3, but any kind of win by the Penguins tomorrow gets them in, or obviously Thursday, whenever you're listening to this.
Right.
Any kind of win for the Penguins on Thursday gets them in. If the Penguins do not win that game, they still basically just need one win down the stretch. The Islanders have 10 games left. I've seen their schedule. They play, I think, some of the best teams in the league for most of them. They just need one win or one Islanders loss, and that will do it. Unless, of course, again, they don't win on Thursday. But the easiest situation, Gil, is just to win the game.
That's very true. The Penguins have looked very good at times this season. At other times, you're like, what happened? What will it take this Penguins team to be able to go on a long playoff run? And obviously getting Geno Malkin back will help. But beyond that.
Yeah, I think I do want to see more consistency in the defensive zone. A lot of the plays, especially in that game last night, and it's carried over into these games against the Islanders. A lot of these zone exits are just they're chipping it off the glass and just praying that the opposition is not going to jump up, take it down, and keep it in the offensive zone, or just go against the boards and keep it in. I'm not seeing enough good defensive play in their own zone. There's just a lot of chaos that the goaltenders are having to bail the skaters out a lot more. I mean, Casey DeSmith, I know he gave up 4 goals in 65 minutes, and then, of course, the shootout goal to Kyle Palmieri, but it could have been a lot more. He made some ridiculous saves. I think one of them, Beauvillier hit the post. Brock Nelson, I think, was flat out robbed. He kept them in that game, even when it was 3-1, heck, even 4-3 in the third period. Heck, he also kept it a tie game when it was 4-4. So, it's just the Penguins have to play better defensively if they want to, go far. And also, starting goaltender-wise, Tristan Jarry, he has regressed a little bit these last couple of weeks. I do think part of it is because of his workload. This is the most he's ever played in a season. He is one of the league leaders in the most amount of starts for a goaltender. That's why I wasn't surprised that Casey DeSmith got the start on Tuesday, because they want to give him the rest down the stretch so that he can go back to his normal self from what we've all seen for most of the season. And if he can get back to that level, I think the Penguins definitely have a good shot at winning, at least a round, hopefully going on a deep run here. They need him to outplay whatever goalie they face, whether it's Igor Shesterkin, whether it's, Frederik Andersen if Carolina slides down, whether it's Sergei Bobrovsky down in Florida. The depth scoring, it has to be there. I think for the most part, lately it's been better. Danton Heinen got his 15th goal of the season last night. Jeff Carter's closing in on 20 goals. This is a very deep team, but can they continue to get offense when Sidney Crosby and Kenny Malkin are not on the ice? I think that's another big key for me as well. The special teams, they've been really good all year, especially the penalty kill. Power play has been fine outside of, mainly last night in the overtime. But, those are the main things that I'm looking at here for the Penguins if they want to go on a deep run here this year.
You talked about Jarry, and look, he didn't have the strongest performance in last year's playoff series. I'll be diplomatic. He was not a strong part of that.
It's a nice way of saying it.
Yeah, I'm being nice. Nice.
I know.
But how much confidence do you have that he will be ready? Because the first 2/3 of the season, he really looked like he had taken his game to another level. You mentioned the workload, that he seems to be regressing a little bit in the last few weeks. Will he be ready for the playoffs?
Well, the Penguins better hope so. And you're right. For the most part this season, he's been one of the 5 to 10 best goaltenders in hockey. It's only really been recently that his save percentage has dipped down a little bit. I mean, I think it was about a month and a half ago, he was at a 929 save percentage. Right now it's dipped down, I think, below 920 just because of this. It's been a rough month for him just because he's been playing so much. And also because Casey DeSmith was not playing at a high level. Now that he's turned his game around a lot and, going into that Tuesday game, they'd actually won 2 of his last 3 starts. That's allowing, Mike Sullivan to put Casey, in starts that usually Tristan would have. So again, the Penguins, they better hope he plays at a high level. They have no choice. I mean, I've usually long said that they need average goaltending to win the playoffs, and they will be fine. Usually that's the case, but again, if the New York Rangers are their opponent, and right now that's still looking like the most likely one. If Washington passes them, that's a different story. But he's going to have to try to outplay Igor Shesterkin. That's going to be a very tall task considering how good he's been. They can't have close to a performance in what we saw last season. I mean, he was the main reason why they lost that series. You look at the underlying numbers and everything, score effects. I thought the Penguins, for the most part, were the better team. They did not get the goaltending. Ilya Sorokin gave them the goaltending, and I think that was the main difference, at least from my perspective. But no, I know that's the big question. You write a redemption story in the playoffs. That's how I see it, and he's going to have his shot here in 3 weeks.
No question. And that's, if he does well, that's a big step forward for his career. If he doesn't, what is his future with Pittsburgh? It becomes a whole different kind of a question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, you're going to have the same questions that the whole fan base had going into, this past offseason. Are they going to go out and get a goalie? Are they going to go trade him? What's going to happen? Because, his contract is going to be up, I think it's after next season. And for the way he's going right now, he will be in line for a raise. But, that's also, it comes down to how does he play when the stakes are the highest. And, we're about to find that out really soon. I'm excited in a way. I'm also, of course, very nervous in a way. They gotta get at least average to above average goaltending if they want to win.
No question about that. So let's talk a little bit about the Islanders. What they need to do to try to get back into the playoffs. If you take away that 0-8-3 slump in November and December, which was largely because of the fact that they were playing without 7, 8, sometimes even 9 players at a time with COVID, the Islanders would be fighting for one of those last playoff spots. I just hope that, they're going to be a year older. This is not a young Islanders team. I got to hope that, they have another season or 2 in them with this current roster, and that Lou Lamoriello is able to tweak that roster a little bit. You talked before about Pittsburgh and their transition game, getting out of their own zone and transitioning from defense to offense. That was a problem for the Islanders, especially earlier in the year. They missed Nick Leddy. Zdeno Chara took his spot in the lineup, but Zdeno Chara at this stage in his career especially is not going to skate the puck out, and he's not a great puck moving defenseman. They need to add that. And then the other thing the Islanders obviously need is another goal scorer, which, this team, Matthew Barzal is a great skater and he's a good passer, but he's not a shoot first kind of guy. So if Lou Lamoriello, I think, can make those 2 tweaks, pandemic situation where half their lineup is unavailable for a game, I think this team can come back. But what are your thoughts about, you've seen the Islanders both earlier in the season and now. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I mean, they've been playing a lot better recently. I mean, they were well behind Columbus, and then all of a sudden they passed them with all those games in hand. I think their main problem this year, at least I think I saw a stat going into last night's game, they're 8-33-2 or something against some of the I think no, not 8-23-2 against some of the playoff teams. I think overall Western Eastern Conference. I mean, even if they win like close to half of those games, I feel like they're right there fighting for that spot. I think I also saw a couple Islanders people say if it weren't for this 0-5-1 road trip earlier on in the season where they only get 1 out of I think 12 points, they would be right there right now. So obviously you have the head coach in place, Barry Trotz. I respect him a lot. He's right out there with Mike Sullivan and John Cooper for the top 3 best coaches in the league. I mean, you can certainly argue Barry Trotz is a better coach than him. It's all about just what do you think their strengths and weaknesses are. Ilya Sorokin's incredible. We all know that firsthand. We've seen that too much, But I think the biggest question for them, Gil, I know Lou Lamoriello talked about this at the deadline. We want to make hockey trades to get better. That's the way we're going to do it. But these scores, they don't, come off trees. You're going to have to give to get. And is Lou Lamoriello prepared to give up a significant asset or a couple assets in return for a score? I think that's going to be my big question. Barzal, he's had a little bit of a down year, I guess, but I still think, when he's on, there aren't many players better than him. Anders Lee is one of the best net front presences in hockey. Brock Nelson has really come out this year. You have a great top pairing with Pelech and Pulak. Noah Dobson, I think, is going to be a mainstay on that blue line for many years to come. There's a lot of pieces, I think, to like there. It's all a matter of, tweaking, maybe the bottom 6, the fringes of that roster. And if he can get a good score or two, I said this previewing the game on Tuesday, I have the Islanders probably getting back to the playoffs next year if they make the right moves. I really do believe that. I know they're still mathematically alive, but I mean, are they really going to come back from 15 points down with 10 games to go? That would be, I think, for those that listen to the Lock On Islanders podcasts that are New York Mets fans, that is a Mets level collapse, I think, from what we've seen a long time ago. So, very unlikely, but I think that's what I see personally with the Islanders. Yeah, they're a bit older, but there's still some pieces here. But I do think they need to go out and get another score or two, because I think when they went to the conference final those 2 years in a row, what doomed them was that they didn't have that other game breaker. And I think if they get that, they're going to be I think they're going to be pretty scary.
I agree, and it's always great to get another perspective, someone who knows their hockey like you do. So greatly appreciated. We are going to take a little look at Thursday's game between the Islanders and the Penguins. The scene now shifting to Pittsburgh. First of all, I'm assuming we see Jarry in goal for Pittsburgh, and I'm assuming it'll probably be Varlamov for the Islanders.
I was going to ask you about that because Sorokin, I think he was coming back from an injury, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously played that Tuesday game. Is Varlamov expected to go? Have they been rotating the goaltenders a bit? But yeah, you will see Tristan Jarry, I'm pretty sure, for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's not 100% certain, but I would think Varlamov, it will be his turn. And, like you said, they are mathematically alive, but realistically, they're not going to make the playoffs this year, barring a complete collapse. And, Varley has been playing well for the most part as of late. And I expect with the schedule being compressed that they do have another game Friday. It would make more sense to rotate the 2 goalies. So,
oh, that's right. I almost forgot that. I believe you guys play the Canadians on Friday, and then you go to Toronto on Sunday. So yeah, I forgot that it is a back-to-back situation. So I guess that would make sense. I think it maybe in a way it helps Pittsburgh that they're not playing Sorokin again, but either goaltender is going to be a challenge for the Penguins. But yeah, it's probably going to be Tristan Jarry. Injury-wise, I mean, there's really no injuries, knock on wood, for now. We just have to see if Brian Rust and Evan Rodriguez are good to go. There has been a massive stomach bug going around the Penguins lately. I'm pretty sure over half the team has been sick or been playing through it. As I said earlier, it's maybe a small reason why they have been playing as better. But, I think a good chunk of it is just, they're not – the details haven't been there.
What do the Penguins need to do better Thursday that they didn't do on Tuesday to come away with the W?
Yeah, I think, how they played in the final 2 periods, honestly. They were limiting the scoring chances in those 2 periods a bit more. Sure, there was some chaos in the defensive zone at times, which will need to be cleared up. But, they were still limiting chances a lot better, those last 2 periods. I think going into the third, the Islanders only had 4 to 5 high danger chances when I checked natural stat tricks. So the Penguins are doing a good job with that. But, it's all a matter of, especially in the first period, not allowing the Islanders to convert, on some of these really good chances because, that second goal that they scored was a shorthanded one when Jean-Gabriel Pageau made everyone look very foolish. The back checking was really not there. The Penguins have to be much better in that regard. Mark Friedman was not nearly as aggressive as he should have been on that opening goal. And then the third one, just Teddy Bluger passing it right to Josh Bailey, basically being a double agent in that regard. And that's a one-timer that, any player will probably bury 100% of the time. It's all about, just, cutting back on the dumb mistakes because I really feel like there's just been a lot of, I guess, brain rot is the word from the Penguins in their play recently. If they can cut down on that, I really feel like they'll have a good shot at winning this game because they were very close in that Tuesday game. I felt like at least the overtime, they probably deserved a better fate if they actually had a good working power play. But once they got to a shootout, honestly, I could have turned the game off and I knew they were going to lose because of how awful they are in shootouts this year. It looks like they don't even try. But those, that's the main thing that I'm looking for the Penguins there. And also, I guess for special teams, continue to, like penalty kill continues to kill penalties. And then the power play, if they can be more consistent and not just look to overpass, I feel like the Penguins can come away with this win. So I liked a lot of what they did in that Tuesday game, but there are some still bad habits that I want out of their game.
From an Islanders perspective, they've got to cut down on the shots allowed. I mean, you're not going to win too many games giving up 47 shots on goal, even if there are an extra 5 minutes in a game. So slowing down the Penguins through the neutral zone, I think Pittsburgh had a lot of room to maneuver, especially in the second and third periods, and just making smarter plays in their own zone. I mean, the Islanders did struggle to clear the puck for the last 40 minutes of the game. I think that was a definite issue as well. Surprisingly, because the Islanders don't do this often, they did have a lot of shots. I think they had 37 shots on goal in the game. They've got to keep doing that. I'm also not one of those people who think you should always shoot the puck. The team have a lot of guys who never shoot the puck or very rarely shoot the puck. So, if you listen to my podcast, I am often saying, don't let the perfect play get in the way of the good scoring chance. If you've got a good scoring chance, take it instead of trying to make that perfect pass to get the elite scoring chance because, more often than not, you're not going to get it. So, those are sort of the factors I think the Islanders need in order to get another 2 points tonight. It won't be easy. Pittsburgh, a good team, and a road trip is always a little tougher than playing at home.
Yeah, and I think the Penguins are going to be really motivated to win this game just to get the clinching out of the way. A lot of these games right now, just because of the standings, they don't mean much. It feels weird to say it with 2.5 weeks to go, and you're not in the playoffs yet, but you kind of basically are. But at the end of the day, you look at the gap from the 8th to the 9th place team, or heck, even 3rd to 5th in the Metro, and the games they don't matter as much. It's mainly just fine tuning your play, getting ready for the playoffs when the games really start to matter. That said, I want to see a lot more from the team here down the stretch. It continues with this game. They're playing a team that's been better than their record, at least right now. So really curious to see how the Penguins come out in this one because the crowd's going to be behind them. I'm sure it's going to be, the crowds have been all right at PPG. I think they've known for a while that the team will make the playoffs, but I'll be curious to see if, the diehards really come out for this one. It's funny, the Penguins, that when they get a good scoring chance, they sometimes try to Harlem Globetrotters it. A lot of times it does not work out, and I'm just like, all right, just shoot the puck in those situations, especially on like odd man rushes. They'll always try to force a pass to make it look so good. I'm like, take the shot that's right there. A lot of times you will beat the goaltender. It's just, I don't know. Something has to work with that.
No question about it. All right. Well, thanks for making Locked On Penguins and Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On Fantasy Hockey. Host Steele Roden and Flip Livingstone help you become the expert of your fantasy league. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. Hunter, I want to thank you for doing this crossover episode. Always fun. Want to wish you and the Penguins good luck the rest of the way. And thanks again. We'll do this again probably next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Curious to see what the Islanders do in the offseason, unless they somehow make the playoffs and a team loses 10 or 11 in a row to end the year and the Islanders win all their games. But more likely we'll definitely do another one of these next season.